What's up everyone, thanks for checking out this video. Today I'm going to be focusing on making a beat in 3/4 timing. So I've got this idea going so far that I think sounds pretty good. So the plan now is to flesh it out into more of a full track, and then I'll break down exactly what's going on with each different track and the project file. In the background now I'm playing a track called Always Drifting, which is one of my favourite tracks I've ever released, and this was the first track that I released in 3/4 timing. I think it really added a cinematic feel and it gave it this more interesting movement that you just don't get in standard timing tracks. For those of you who aren't familiar with the 3/4 time signature, it's quite a common alternate time signature, most popularly used with sort of waltz sounds. Basically means that there's 3/4 notes to every measure rather than 4 as a standard 4/4 timing would have. But I just feel like it gives the track sort of a more fluid movement to it. If you've made any lo-fi beats with more unusual time signatures, I would love to hear them if you drop a link to them or drop the name of the track in the comments down below. But yeah, I'm just going to try and flesh out the track a little bit more, and then I'll do a full breakdown at the end. So really happy with how this one turned out. It's definitely going to be a future Spotify release for me. So I'm just going to break down all the stems that went into this and how I built the track. So this is the project file. So starting off with the atmosphere sounds, I've got a bog standard vinyl crackle noise on there. Just cutting out some of the lower frequencies to make sure there's no muddiness in there. And I've layered that in with a ambient background noise. So this, as you can see from the start of the video, was recorded from a BBC sound effects vinyl, which I found in a charity shop. Got some cool ambient sounds on there, probably not royalty free, so sorry BBC about that, but it worked nicely in the context of this track, and if I release it I'll be sure to drop a royalty free sample in there. But yeah, that was the atmosphere. So yeah, that's that. Next up I'll go on to the instrument group. So this started off with a pedal note. So a pedal note is effectively one or two notes that just repeat throughout a track and sort of keep the chord progression grounded and act as sort of like a root sort of note for the everything else to build around. So this was just a piano, little melody there, fades in at the start, just bringing in some of the lows. So that was on the Contact Noir Felt from Native Instruments. I've just got a bit of a frequency cut on the top end and the low end there with the auto filter. This was just tweaking the bog standard preset that opens up when you open up Noir Felt. So yeah, that's that. And it also blends in with the synth sound, which was from the Ulfa Arnold Stratos. So that's got cutting away some of the low frequencies in that because I just want it to be a sort of high synthy sparkle. That's just the Swarms, the Synth Matrix Swarms preset. So with this one, if you play a couple of different notes, it'll sort of bring in and out different synth sounds depending on the notes that you play. So this intro is just a simple little droney thing, and then as the track gets in, it goes a little bit more complicated with just a different pattern that sort of adds a bit of synthy texture to the track. And then additionally in the introduction, we've got the main chord progression in 3/4 that drops in. So again, this is a Noir Felt preset. It was the Dusky preset. I think maybe a little bit of tweaking as well, with a little bit of an EQ to cut away some of the lows. So that's the introduction, and then once the beat drops, I get sort of a few extra elements to blend in. And as we're building up to that, again, I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, I like to bring in firstly Portal, which adds sort of a reverse delay texture that sort of fades up from the dry to wet as it builds to the drop and then cuts off at the drop. And then you also start to swoop out some of the low end frequencies with an auto filter. So it just sort of blends into the drop nicely. And then it kicks in. And then when it kicks in, I've got this guitar loop that comes in, which I recorded again in the intro. So this is just my usual guitar rack with some filter delay. So this just delays the sound that's within this frequency spectrum. And then some convolution reverb, quite heavy. I used some effects from Comeback Kid, so I'm not using delay here. I just use a bit of the stereo width, some of the tape, swirl, source, sections of this, just to add a bit of character, as well as an auto filter as well. So yeah, that was just a little addition for the drop. And then on top of that, I've got my lead guitar line, which comes in, which is just usual guitar rack with some convolution reverb. And I've also sent this to a reverb send. I've got this big spacey reverb, but I'm cutting a lot of the frequency out of the guitar that's coming into it. So it's just the high end that gets a little bit of reverb laid in. So that comes in as well with that send. I've used the send on a few different things down here as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I've got the two guitar chains that drop in. And then I've also got a couple of piano lines that drop in as well. So this one comes in sort of midway. And then I've got this one as well. And they are both exactly the same thing. This one's got a little more reverb on. But they are from the Ulfa Arnold's Composer Toolkit. It's got a felt grand piano in there, which is a really nice sort of crisp sound, great for adding lead melody to things. So that's what I've used. There's no tweaking to it. This is just the box standard mixed version that comes out. So piano lines, and then finally I've got this vocal bit in the instrument group. So this is sort of like a vocal synth mix on the actual group. I'll just show you what I've applied first. I've cut some of the low end because it was a little bit muddy. I didn't want that sort of interfering with the keys and the bass. So I cut the low end away, added some convolution reverb towards the end if I automate that. So as the track gets towards the bit where this drops out, the vocal reverb builds up as it fades. Just helps transition out of it without the sudden stop. And then I've also got a J37 stereo, which is a Waves tape reel emulator, just adds a bit of saturation, as well as some artifacts from tape recording. And then each stem here, two of them are from the Oliver Patrice Pool project. So this one and this one, both from the Oliver Patrice Pool project. Really nice, cheap plugin from Spitfire Audio with some great vocal textures. So I like to layer a few of them together, and then I've layered that with the Elev lens, which is again another Spitfire Audio $30 plugin. This has got more sort of articulated vocal bits. And then in the context of the track, I just think it adds a sort of nice breathy movement to the song. So that's the instrument group. So next up is just a bog standard kick. Obviously, if you're recording in unusual time signatures, a lot of your loops that you use probably aren't going to work in the context, or if they do work, you'll probably need a lot of editing and chopping up and stuff. So in my opinion, it's easier just to record some MIDI, which is what I did. I think that might have been a splice kick, can't remember. I've also got this bass here, which is an archetype Corey Wong preset, recorded DI with my AP bass, and added a bit of a filter, auto filter on there to go to the highs. It's a little bit different to the bass I recorded in the intro, which didn't work in the end when I started putting the track together. And then finally I've got this highs and mids section. So on the group here, on the highs and mids, I've got this tape plugin from Elephant, another producer on YouTube. Definitely worth checking out his stuff. He's got some great freebies for Ableton and a lot of information for Ableton users as well. So that's Elephant on YouTube. And then on top of that, I've added Fresh Air just to boost the clarity and the highs of the hi-hats, as well as an ozone exciter, again, adding a little bit more to the high end. So I've got a couple of different basic sort of hi-hat loops recorded in MIDI. I think these were just the Ableton standard session kit, loaded in with just some of my lo-fi hats. This didn't make it to anything, but then these two were actually just recorded with a brush, so brushing on the desk, and then recorded it in and added some effects. So they've both got pretty heavy EQs, just around the 1K mark, which is all that I wanted, the texture for them. They're both starting off with a tape plugin, which is a new plugin from Baby Audio, with some tape saturation and a bit of compression on there. So they've both got that, and then I've got convolution on this one, as well as comeback kit on this one, just adding some stereo width. So yeah, just a paintbrush sound, but in the context of the track, it worked quite well. And then on top of that, I've just layered in a textured snare. So as always, it's different snare sounds all layered on top of each other. Sometimes 3 or 4 different sounds, just to give it more of a depth. They don't always have to be exactly on time with each other. So that is the whole track. I hope it was useful to you, and I hope maybe it's inspired you to make some more unusual time signature beats. And I would love to hear in the comments down below beats that you've already made with 3/4 timing or other unusual time signatures. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope it was useful. Please do drop a like and a comment if it was. It will help the channel grow. But yeah, I'll see you next time.